Folks, hello. Welcome to a very random party generator special. Very special should have come first. I'm not awake yet, folks. This this is retirement, right? Normally it's like I'm eating breakfast at this time. We as a group thought it was very important to come out here, speak with you. We weren't going to be able to wait till next Friday. So, Rob Conley, IP thief, you have to figure out who that is by their voice. You'll figure it out soon enough. And none other than the very mysterious and hard to find, almost like a collectible card in your Magic the Gathering overpriced $999 box set, Matt Jackson. So welcome to our discussion on the OGL and then some. Oh my God! There's so many comments waiting for me to put up on the screen. You guys are insane. Oh,
They did take off.
there we go.
Oh, don't forget to put the link to the change organization, the
I
change petition.
I will. I already put in the link for the Defend the OGL Discord. It's actually if you've ever done political activism at some point in my life, this is a resource with phone numbers and addresses and emails and who to talk to and who to request to talk to, and sample scripts, and don't be an asshole. I think that's the biggest thing ever. Don't go, hey, is this Chris Perkins? Suck my. No, you can't. You don't do that. You don't do that. You explain to them why this affects you. Okay. So, good resource. That server is doing extremely well. And I'm gonna throw this out here before we really formally start this. I have been contacted from people across the spectrum of the OSR. People who have otherwise, in secret circles behind walled gardens, said some very unkind things about yours truly, who have apparently buried the hatchet in the common cause. So I expect that we're going to see the same with a lot of publishers. So just a little heads up. So who wants to take this ball and start running with it? Since Wizards of the Coast took their ball home. Who wants?
You said last night that you wanted people needed a primer, a brief
Yes. All right.
primer.
Well, we have Mr. Primer himself, Rob Conley.
That's what I was going to
Okay.
suggest for the first is let him present the not necessarily traditional, but kind of the general OSR take that's been going on so far from publishers like Rob Conley.
Yeah.
Well, so around the late '80s, people got tired of the IP situation in software development and came up with this. And several of them were not just programmers, but lawyer types as well. And they came up with this idea to do a copyleft license that they would put out their code and you could use it with permission, but the permission included the proviso that if you use it and adapt it, your code must be open as well. And it has spawned uh, the internet. What the reason why we're watching this video today is underlined by open source code, and this mentality that creative content like software extended to writing, art, and other areas, and it started picking up steam in the '90s, and when Ryan Dancy and the Wizards staff ran into the situation with TSR and bought them, and just how close TSR came to the death of TSR came to killing off D&D permanently because of IP problems. Um, he looked at the open source world and put together the open game license to do two things, because he is a believer in open content. It's just the same way as the software guys were, but to save D&D from itself if need be. And so basically the premise is simple. I release this content. In the case of Wizards, it was the D20 SRD. You can use it as long as anything you build off of it is likewise open content. But we live in the real world. So unlike software, with us, we often deal with licensed property. You want to make a Star Wars RPG. You want to make a Babylon 5 RPG. You want to deal with content that we're never going to be open and maybe shouldn't be open. And so they built into the OGL the ability to intermix product identity, right, content that's under traditional copyright, with open content. And as long as you explain what the open content were, you can intermix the two. And people have been going on this way for 23 years. And and it has spawned role playing communities based around this that didn't exist in 2000 around complete system, including the OSR. Now people look at it and say, well, the OSR is kind of sketchy because it's copying something that was never made open. Well, two things. First of all, Ryan admitted during the run up when the OGL was first released that people could use this to make their own system, but they believed that people always turn to Wizard for the real content, and for the most part, he was right. But second, it turns out if you take the content that they did release, the D20 SRD, and omit all the newer stuff, feats, multiclassing, the unified XP table, what's left is but a hop and a skip from any older edition. So hence we got the OSR. And other people adapted it for their own system. Mongoose did it twice, once with a Runecast based system that is now currently released as Legends, and the other one with Traveler, which they try to get away from, but unfortunately, as a prelude to what's going on, they started a community content program over on DriveThru called the Travelers Aid Society, and that had a restrictive license that not only your content must remain there, but anything based on that content. And since the Traveler third parties were all about their own setting, not the Third Imperium, they said nope, and somebody put together a OGL clone called Cepheus. And Fate is dual licensed under Creative Commons and the OGL, so people can intermix Fate. They did that because people can intermix Fate content with with D&D content if they wanted to. Why limit people? That's the point is to be as open as possible. And of course, now since the release of the 5e SRD, we have everybody releasing. Have a huge ecosystem of people releasing stuff under the 5e. And there are people still releasing stuff under traditional IP, but the advantage of this system is not that you can get to write your own system, in that you can focus on the things you want to focus on. If you're only interested in doing adventure, you can pick some open content system out there and just write adventure, or just supplement, or just setting. You don't have to go the whole package. This is something I found out, and the reason why I'm creating this is because why I created this is when I go into a game store and I don't have a system to sell, it gets a little hard. But on the online marketplace where anything is just but a click away, that's really not the case. So you can focus on adventures. So that's basically the situation and with open gaming in a nutshell.
All right. Well, now, Rob, I'm going to throw you another question. It might be, it might be a bit of a curveball, but if you have Cepheus, which is obviously not based on the D20 system or the classic D&D system, under an OGL that is suddenly unauthorized, what happens with that license?
Well, the bigger debate right now is over Section 13, which says this license will terminate if you don't fulfill the clause, right? Simple. But it has a sentence that stands by itself that says sub-licenses are not affected by this. So which just leads to the whole question of, okay, Wizards gave Bob, or let's say Wizards gave Matt down there the SRD. Matt went down, used the SRD directly. Then I, in turn, use Matt content to make my own thing. So I'm not a licensee of Wizards. I'm a licensee of Matt. I'm using the sub-license that he's allowed to give to make my stuff. The same with Cepheus. The only Wizard content, and it's even more clear-cut in case of Cepheus, is that the only Well, that's not entirely true, and I'll get that to in a minute. But I'm going to go with Mongoose and Legend because that's more clear. The only content that you're using in Mongoose Legend is um, made by Mongoose. If you read their section 15, all it says copyright Wizard is the license itself, and then it goes Mongoose Legends. No other citation. Now, unfortunately, Cepheus Jason Kemp, in order to get some of the content he needs to make a Traveler clone, he had to go to D20 Modern. So, in a sense, Cepheus is a partial licensee of Wizard. However, large chunks of it are, from the old Traveler Mongoose Traveler 1E SRD, which doesn't have a reference to anything made by Wizard other than the license itself.
Okay.
So the chain, the Wizards may not have maybe not be a party to any to Cepheus.
Right, but they're saying that all OGL 1.0 and 1.0A licenses have been terminated.
Well, that's because that hinges on Section 9, where it says you may use this or any other authorized license.
And they're saying they're not authorized, and go pound fucking sand. Pretty much is what they're saying. Because this is where, folks, we have Dark Winter. Any update on this? The update is that we're all still trying to figure it out. But I could tell you from talking to, and here's the thing. I really don't know what my fellows on this screen are planning to do with their work that's in different stages. But the people that I've spoken to that are smaller publishers, everybody is trying to figure out how quickly they can scrape the OGL/SRD content out of their works, because nobody really knows how far it's going to go. Now, there's somebody on Facebook, I'm not going to mention their name, but they're strongly arguing that this is only aimed at 5e and it doesn't affect the OSR, and that the OSR just throws the OGL in for whatever reason, and they never needed the OGL. But if it's in your book, you've signed on to a license, and you signed on to a license out of an urge for convenience, because that's really what it comes down to. The OGL is convenience for you having to rewrite a game in your own words, kind of like Kevin Crawford has done. Kevin Crawford does not use the OGL. He does not use the SRD. This is not going to affect him whatsoever. And where's my World Without Number book? Maybe it's not that close to stay. World Without Number is going to be like the de facto OSR game. The only one that's to be left in print, theoretically, or possibly, the way this is going. We don't even know. Now, another thing is, I had people yesterday. Did you hear anything about the OGL 1.1 being released on Sunday? I'm like, Sunday? I mean, I could see it Friday when they want to like dump it, like most news articles that they don't want you to hear about and talk about. Dump it on a Friday, then everybody goes home and nobody talks about it. But it doesn't work that way in gaming, and you're not going to dump something on Sunday. And something else, I'll throw this out there. It's been joked about that, God help whatever intern or interns Wizards of the Coast put on duty over the weekend to watch every YouTube video on the OGL, and to judge reactions, and to monitor Facebook and Twitter and Discord, and make a report for the bosses when they come in at 10 a.m. on Monday morning. So if you happen to be a Wizards of the Coast intern, well, first off, we feel for you, and secondly, at this point, you're the enemy, so you can go screw. But we'll laugh in the end at what you have to go through. So, now before Elle makes fun of me for having fallen behind in the fucking chat again. And by the way, I was falling behind in last night's chat in Gamers Health because we had a visit from Amalio. So we might have a visit today. Who knows? Or maybe not. He's probably still sleeping and drinking. But now, like, Matt, of us in this room, you are one that you do maps, but you're not really commercializing the hobby, correct?
Correct.
So you give us a point of view of more the consumer, but even that you've been going away to things like was it index RPG and stuff like that.
Yeah, I've really mainly been playing white box recently, but
All right.
I don't know. As a consumer, I don't know. I don't think I'm your average D&D player, especially 5e. I don't play that at all. I think a lot of people, and Rob will probably combat me on some of this, but like I was saying in our little chat that we have, I think the thing that really will be the most damaging to Wizards and Hasbro is, they've been a very inclusive and supportive, trying to spread the reach of the horizon of D&D out to as many different groups to kind of get everybody in on it. And I think that now that they've done this, I think you're going to see the positive side of social media is that you can spread lots of word without spending any money. And I think now you're going to see the backlash of that,
Yep.
where that tool that they were using to spread D&D is now going to be turned on them. Just like, wow, that's not me. Is that the IP thief breathing heavy?
Well,
I think you're
he's
going to see
stealing your
sort of,
breath with the cat.
4 years ago, everybody loved Google. Everybody loved Apple. Everybody loved Twitter. And that was because it was a very safe, inclusive world, and all the different brands or different types of people latched onto it and loved it. And then as soon as any of those companies started to actually do what companies are supposed to do, which is make money and not really give a crap about all of us little people, all of a sudden they've become enemy number one. And I think Hasbro is now going to feel the backlash of that, because they literally have built a business model on the spreading of D&D via social media. I mean, think about how many videos people make of not old grognards playing games. It's all young people with funny colored hair and piercings. And yeah, sorry, you do have a little bit of blue hair right now, Eric, but
Yeah, well, that's the fake green screen on top.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see a little bit of a backlash from that, because that group of people that they've been utilizing and building their business model on, they don't really like big, mean companies that are just coming after your money. And I think that's going to really hurt them.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't know this about what happened in the 80s and 90s with Kevin Sembieta and Rifts. But if anybody remembers Rifts, basically Rifts was beloved by a huge number of people. It was it was the second role playing game I ever played. It was awesome. And then Kevin Sembieta, who controlled Rifts, went so hard after anybody who even mentioned anything of his in their work. If you made an adventure that just said juicer in it, he would go after you legally. And it was so harsh that people just said, forget it. Yeah, I'm not gonna even try to connect with Palladium at all. And that's chat people. I couldn't remember the name of his company, but I don't even think about them anymore, because he basically nuked himself. But we're in a collaborative enterprise, and if you go around telling people, if you even mention me, I'm gonna attack you viciously, then we're gonna all stop mentioning you, and it's social media.
Yeah,
You're gonna disappear. They're shooting themselves in the foot by not wanting to cooperate with other people. They've already shot themselves in the foot through horrific brand management for the past 5 years, in my opinion, and that it's just going to continue. This is just one more instance of them being so tone deaf to what people actually want. And I was, Eric, we've been talking about doing Ars Magica campaign this year. just looking at Ars Magica, the complexity of the book, the difficulty of teaching it to people, makes me. My first reaction is, man, we need to rewrite this in a way that doesn't reference the original content. Like we need to come up with new names for all these houses. We need to come up with new names for all these magic things, and just have like a new OSR version that
Greg.
people could run with. Because that's what I want. I want flexibility. Rob, I'm saying, let me just get this out.
Okay.
I think what people want is to have some kind of generic chassis, like Rob was saying, the OGL is supposed to be creating, that they can then build off of. And if the person who makes the chassis is saying, no, you can't touch it, well, then we're just going to find a different chassis to work with. We're going to redo it in some other way. People aren't going to sit around, and just, oh, well, they said not to do anything. People are restless. They're going to do what they want to do. And if OGL won't let them do it, they're just going to find another way to do it. They're going to do something else in a way that's going to bypass Wizards completely.
So I have two things for Greg. First, unrelated to all this, we need to talk because I have that Ars Magica work-alike. I think you'll be pleased with what I have on that already, and you might find it useful.
Interesting.
And second, I just remembered you game with a bunch of your buddies on Saturday. Do they have any impression of what's going on?
We have one guy who's really, really connected into the community, and he brought it up. And the other guys are just it's a great. I'm glad you asked. Most guys out there have no idea what we're even talking about. They don't care. They get up every day, go to their job, take care of their kids, do whatever their life is. And they come home and they play a game for like 2 or 3 hours a week. And they don't give a shit about Wizards of the Coast, period.
Okay.
And my game guys, we have an embarrassment of riches. We have more modules, more games, more shit we can run until the end of time before I need to even look and think about WotC again. I mean, it's insane. I've run Alien modules with them. We've run Traveler modules with them. We've run all kinds of different stuff. I haven't even touched whole genres, that we could do before we even came back to Wizards of the Coast. I don't need them in any way at all. And I think there's a lot of people out there who feel the same way. I don't need the drama, so I'm just going to do something else.
Yeah, and I just to add that I know a gamer here that plays in. I think she said she plays in two online games and one in-person game. And I saw her for lunch on Thursday, and she had no idea any of this. And she's pretty connected, like online with different campaigns and stuff. I thought it was interesting that she didn't even care.
Well, if you're
like, what?
With the bog standard Wizards of the Coast releases, this doesn't affect you.
Yeah.
If your group is using material from Fraud God Games or Kobold Press, this will affect you. By the way, I'm going to something about the 13th. The 13th was the day, the last day, my understanding, for those that are currently under NDA to sign up for 1.1. The reality is that the day was supposed to, the 4th was supposed to be the day they were going to announce their initial signees. Nobody signed up. Then it was the 6th, and apparently nobody significant has signed up. And the 13th will be the day when no more initial signees. There is where it's at, which means if you're looking at it from the outside, the third-party publishers or first-party publishers with their own content that fall under the OGL apparently are not pleased with 1.1. So that's like the update summary of what I know that I can talk about.
Yeah.
So to build on some of the comments in the chat about movies and them not appreciating what they need out of us, I think that those people are right on. That is exactly right. They desperately want us to sign up on their links, Eric, and they can't.
Yeah.
They can't get people to do it. They want people to care. This has been, I saw some stat that in the past year, basically all the streaming companies plus Disney plus Hollywood has lost a combined $40 billion of failed movie projects, failed commercial projects this year because they're delivering mountains of shit that nobody wants to eat. Okay. And it sucks. And nobody's been buying it, and they've been losing money hand over fist. These companies are eventually going to have to turn around and say, well, forget it. We might actually have to deliver what the customer wants to see. And as long as WotC isn't even doing that, I mean, like, OGL aside, there's not a single project that they've released where I've gone, oh, that's interesting. I think I'm going to buy that.
The
Right?
last one for me was Saltmarsh.
Yeah, I've seen tons and tons and tons of other projects where I'm going, oh, that's great. Look at Rob's going to do this, or Cold Press going to do this, or all these little guys are releasing stuff that I'm way more interested in. The Alien modules this year have been 3 million times better than anything I've ever bought out of WotC in the past 20 years. Why?
Yeah, those Free League guys are really hitting it out of the park.
Why would I go back to them? I mean, they're just they have to realize they need to publish what we want to buy. And they haven't realized that.
That doesn't make any sense. You should be buying what they want to sell because they're selling their message. They're selling what they think you should play. Like the article. Remember the article from last week, which I thought was going to be the big topic for weeks on end. It included the attack on the OSR, folks, by the way, was not meant to be just an attack on the OSR. The attack on the OSR was an attack on anybody who plays D&D prior to 2020. Prior to orcs, once orcs became whatever alignment you want them to be.
I had to explain pig orcs to my son this weekend.
Right. but that's the thing, right? That's the cutoff date now. If you're not playing current D&D, you are an ist. You are all these things that we can throw into a basket, and they don't want you. And they want you to be playing the system that can be upgraded in the background. It can be 1984, where, that was never in the book, because you don't have a physical copy. You just get your digital copy on D&D Beyond, and we changed that. So just go with what we got here. Don't worry about it. It's all good. It's all good.
Really, they don't look at the pirate site. People scrape stuff the day of release on D&D Beyond.
I know, and in their mind, it's not in PDF, so it can't be taken. They're.
Well, there's a book that is now, let's see, 2009. I just looked up on Amazon. Over 10 years old. It's called "Free: The Future of a Radical Price." And this guy, I remember him. This is back in the Google Plus days. I remember talking about this guy's stuff. And the great thing, he had this great conversation on some TED Talk or whatever. Somebody was asking him stuff, and he goes, if I give my kids a choice of 1 hour of video games, playing AAA rated video games from top publishers, 1 hour of watching, the most highly overproduced content in the world on streaming services for, movies, TV, whatever, incredible production value, incredible investments, or watching other kids do stop motion Lego on YouTube, they will pick the stop motion Lego on YouTube. What does that say about the quality that this other stuff is delivering to us? If it was really that good, would a kid want to watch another kid move a little Lego across the screen and go, a fart joke? That we have to consider, as awesome and crazy as these things are, when we look at how people actually vote with their decisions, this is not what they want.
Well, that's one thing I was going to add was, I think not only us, our generation of gamers, but especially the newer generation of gamers, many of them are creative types. We create stuff. It may not be RPG stuff. Maybe they're artists or musicians or something like that. But a lot of us have that, I don't know, divine creative spark in us. We all create stuff. And I think the real problem that Hasbro is going to have is they want us to just be consumers. But role-playing gamers, by far, most that I've met anyway, are all creative types. Very few of them are just sheeple that just, I mean, maybe, I don't know, maybe the younger generation, especially our generation, everybody was a damn creative. Everybody created something, be it a couple magic items or a city or some NPCs, something. Everybody created something. And the way that they're going is they want to control everything. And that's something we haven't touched on yet. The biggest thing for me, and I mean, I don't create stuff like y'all do, but the biggest thing that will forever keep me from ever doing anything with the OGL is the new one, is the where you own the IP, but it gives them the right to use it later. F that. I mean, think about how many people would be screwed since we started having movies and things. How many people's families wouldn't have money because somebody else could have stolen their IP and then made a movie off of it or a book series. They would
They're
have
counting on you not remembering that. They're
Well, Matt,
counting on taking your folk tale of the Little Mermaid and turning it into the Little Mermaid and making millions and millions and millions of dollars off
you
of it.
have no right to any of that. I
That's
mean,
right. That's what they want.
I'm going to
and for
disagree with
creative
you.
types, that is a huge no-no. I mean, that's no artist will be like, oh, that's a good idea. Nobody.
I'm going to disagree with you, Matt, but on a way that might surprise you. No, they don't want us to be consumer. They wanted to be us to be creative serfs. They want to impose serfdom on all of us.
They want both, Robin. Here's I'm going to explain to you what I mean by that. They feel that the players are under-monetized, all right? The DMs pay into the system, the players do not. So they have to find a way to monetize the player base. That's going to be the VTT, D&D Beyond, microtransactions. And Elle was pointing out that OGL 1.1 forbids VTT adventures unless they're under license. So if it's not their VT or one of their preferred VTTs, the other VTTs, like Foundry and the rest, they're not going to have access to D&D or the OGL. All right. But the creatives are certainly being put on a serfdom because you're going to be working for peanuts, and you give up all rights to your work. Like you're both are agreeing to that. Whatever you do, and here's the thing: it isn't even like, because I had somebody argue with me yesterday. Like, well, when you wrote under the OGL, didn't you give up all rights? I gave up the rights to what I gave as open content, and what I consider to be intellectual property or identifying that I like. A lot of publishers, some of the more skeevy ones, would only open up the statistics, right? Like they would keep the stat blocks would be open content, but the monster names and descriptions weren't.
Yeah, their declaration of open content is anything based on the SRD is considered open content. The rest of product identity, and now you have to play a guessing game to what.
Right. But what it is with 1.1, everything is not going to the community. By the way, it's not open for the community to use. They're not saying that. 1.1 is saying it goes to Wizards of the Coast. So now that's another question that hasn't even been addressed as far as I can tell. How do you build off of other open game content under 1.1? We haven't seen those clauses. All right. We know how you do it in 1.0. 1.1, we know that you give all rights. You retain ownership. But it's kind of like, I have a car. I own the car. Yet my neighbor has all rights to it, which surpass mine. I get the bill. I get to pay for it. I get to put the gas in it. I get to do all that stuff. But if they want to take it on a 2-week trip, they take it on a 2-week trip. That doesn't quite seem right. And why is that? Because in theory, Wizards of the Coast is going to look at everything that you publish under 1.1 because you have to submit it. You have to submit it via website. And they're saying this is going to be so simple. But at the same time, in their facts, they talk about...
Where are they going to get the manpower, Eric, to do this?
Rob,
I found this on the web for what is the cost is going to look at everything.
Shut up! Sorry. They talk about how this is simple. It's not a real change. And yet, then they talk about when 1.1 kicks off, they're going to have all these people available by phone, on computer, to walk you through the process, answer your questions. they know it's going to be a shit show. And that review clause is there for very limited reasons. Okay. It's to keep people like Wenger and the pundit and James Raggi and Zach Smith. God forbid Zach Smith, the vampire, comes back into gaming and publishes something under the OGL. We can't have that in our one D&D. And again, that facts. If you looked at the facts about the OGL that came out like I don't know 3 weeks ago, it all talks about is D&D. It doesn't talk about third-party publishers. It's telling you that all your D&D will belong to us, and it's good and it's fine. It doesn't address anybody or anything else that might be under the OGL. So if you are a third-party publisher and you think you aren't getting fucked, you're getting fucked whether it's with intent or because they don't give a shit.
And it's harsh enough that I think if you had a good lawyer, you could argue unconscionable contract on it. It's so oppressive that the only reason you would sign it is because you don't understand it.
So
that seems to me to be a solid legal argument here.
Morally, I mean, culture is, I guess, if people are familiar with the history of the theory of evolution, it's Lamarckian. That means people acquire, when people create something, they acquire traits from the people. No, it is rare that you get something that springs up out of nothing. So we all stand on the shoulders before us. We stand on the shoulders of Gygax. We stand on the shoulders of R.E. Howard and all the authors of the pulp story, who stand on the stories going all the way back to Homer, and Homer stood on somebody's shoulder. We just don't have any documentation of who it is. And so to do this kind of thing, it's just a moral tragedy. It's a total it impoverishes it all, including them, because they just literally cut themselves off.
But they're a corporation, and they don't care about the people. They don't care about the product. They don't care about the quality, except how it applies to profit. And they've done the math. All right. And this is my opinion. It's what I stated on my video yesterday. But I'm gonna give you the brief. I believe this is the scorched earth policy. They are taking the down year, 2023, the year between editions, the year where they know they're not going to make much of a profit anyway, and they're releasing an open game license a year before the new edition, a new license, a much more restrictive license. Why do you release that a year before? With 5e, we got it 15 months after the edition released. They gave us the basic set that was free. And that's what they thought we wanted the SRD and the OGL for, so we could play for free. And they here's your free shit, go away, kid. And people still wanted the OGL, and we finally got an OGL, and it was a legit OGL. Okay. Now they're saying we have a down year. Let's try something different.
That's a foolish strategy to begin with, because with the 4E, they kind of released the GSL and all that at last minute. And it took a while before Pazio, the major competitor, to spring up and get their stuff going. So they had a year where D&D 4E was still the premier system. Maybe they lost some audience there, but of course, it has the magic D&D on there. And people, how the system really worked really didn't sink in until a year later. And but this time, they're giving us a whole year to figure out what to do.
Right. They're giving a year to wipe the plate clean. Okay.
I agree with you. Well, they're burning all the bridges, and I think we should, rather than try to rebuild the bridge to them, we should just let them burn the bridge and just walk away.
Well, I would
do something else. Change your product so you're not using any of their IP in any way. No more beholders. It's going to be called something else. You call it an eye tyrant, call it whatever, but it can't be called a fucking beholder anymore, and just walk away.
Well, I agree with you in part, and I think people, I support anybody who wants to convert what their projects now to Creative Commons or some other license, but I don't want to see us lose the mountain of content that was created under the OGL, because
are you going to lose it though?
Yeah, you have to go seek permission from everybody who created each individual piece because
do
you
what
can't
with it?
use the license that they originally gave permission under.
Well, hold on. I think we're talking about two different things. You're saying all of the mountain of previous content that was created, we won't be able to use. I'm going to say
It,
no,
No,
that's not true.
you're saying use. Robert's saying
That's what I'm
use.
saying. Clarify your statement because you're saying
He's
use,
saying
but
use
we
as a
can-
publisher, not use as a player. As a player, I can use
Right.
whatever the fuck I want.
Exactly.
You as a publisher for your further work, you can't work. I can't take theoretically, if I didn't know Rob, I can't work off of Black Marsh under the OGL because the OGL has been, you
Right.
know.
No, I agree,
he
but
said, so
I
there's,
think that's
yeah,
I
the
think
use
that's somewhat
aspect. I
disingenuous
can see
to
where
say
that
that
was
we
going.
can't use it because
well,
we can.
you're right, and I wasn't
have
clear,
been.
and Eric
We have been
clarified
for
what I
4
meant.
decades.
But but
All right.
I will also, but it will affect availability because if the
Sure.
really worst case scenario occurs, then you will not be able to sell them. Now, there's another worst case scenario where they just say you can't make anything new, which means you can keep everything up,
Right.
but you just can't make
All right.
anything new.
Now, what I'm hearing is that there is some content that some major publishers have that that Watsi is kind of using the threat of if you're not part of the new OGL, your old content will not be sellable. So they're not. Here's the thing. Usually with this stuff, there is a carrot. The carrot to 1.0 was, hey, jump into our sandbox, and here we're gonna make it easy for you to create content, and all you gotta do is share and share alike, and it all fits on one page, and it's not nefarious. It's not nefarious. And now with 1.1, there's no carrot. Okay, it's a mallet. And they're breaking fingers and they're saying, hey, you want a business? You want to be in business? Under our terms, you can come to us. All right. But if you don't come to us, we'll break all your windows, we'll knock all your shelves down, and we'll burn you out. How's that sound? Well, I don't really like either one because if I work for you, I don't make a profit anymore because I'm one of those companies that's going to make over that number. What are you worried about? We'll take care of you. By the way, folks, I personally had assumed that certain companies were going to get those sweetheart deals. Like, I know the OGL 1.1. You can sign a separate contract and we'll have a deal for you to write for 1D&D. They're not doing that shit. Okay, they're not offering any of the premier partners a sweetheart deal. They're just saying, I don't understand. We're giving you a good deal, and it's the only deal. So why aren't you taking it? That's what we have.
Why are you sounding like a mobster right now?
Because it's a fucking which is the code is. They're right now. They're telling you, hey, you know that deal that we made? Forget about it. It don't exist no more. Here's the new deal. It's a better deal. Well, it's a better deal for who? For us. Well, for you, maybe not so much. But it's the only deal in town. If you don't sign up, hey, you can't deliver newspapers no more. We own all the routes. Your garbage will never get picked up because we own all the garbage. They're telling you it's our way or the highway. And right now, my understanding is publishers are telling them to go pound sand. We're going to take the highway, which is a beautiful thing to see. And at the same time, a horrible thing to see because this is a marketplace. This is an ecology that is going to go through seismic shifts, all because Wizards of the Coast has probably done a study from some, $500,000 paid to some college professors to tell us, hey, if we fuck this market up, after this thing dies for a year and a half, how do we come out ahead? Oh,
I'm sorry. There's a point. I have looked at my notes. There's a point. The D&D movie. That's what they think their new audience is going to come from. Everybody's going to see the D&D movie. Everybody's going to like it, and then they're going to be searching for D&D. They wreck the old market. They can build the new market off of the.
Right, and imagine.
Yeah, that's the ticket. Yeah.
Imagine you come from that D&D movie and you look for D&D and you find was it a Fuchsia Malady or whatever the fuck Wenger is publishing, and you come home when you got like Oh my god, I got Alpha Blue. What the? This isn't D&D. This has half naked tramps from a 1970s Porky's movie. What the fuck is this? That's their fear. That is literally their fear, and that's why they're wiping the slate. And it is. The problem is they wrote a contract that's 10 times as long as the original contract because it's all about how to justify how what's good for them is good for you. And nothing in this contract is good for you as a producer, as a publisher. It's not there to assist you or help you. It is there. Why do you have to report earnings over 50,000? And by the way, they can change that contract within 30 days. They give you 30-day notice. We change it again. Oh, 750,000. Now we're taking 25% off of anything over 100,000. They can do what they want with it, and you can opt out of the contract, but you can't come back.
Well, I mean that's typical for anything IP related. If we were talking open content instead of I was making a deal for Black March, I could be a dick about it as much as I want to be.
Right, but that's Rob. Again, that's the thing. They're calling this an open game license, right? This is you know what? Any of the metaphors I'm going to use would probably get me demonetized, but it is far from open. Okay, it is far from open. This is as closed as you can get with the amount of restrictions placed on it, the morality clause placed on it. This isn't an open game license.
Well, hey, let me ask you a question because I know you two have been way more involved with this because you've been studying it. So things like drive-through RPG with all the content that's already on there, I'm assuming they won't be allowed to sell things that are under the old OGL.
I know people are removing their content proactively because
we'll all go to the pirate sites for it.
Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, and now that's a huge thing, right? Now, say I decided I'm going to take Continual Light and I'm going to DSRD DOGL it.
Well, one follow-on question with that. Mm-hmm. So, is it I can't publish it, or I can't make money off of it? Because if you can put it up on drive-through for free.
Oh, you could probably do that. There's two open game licenses. There's the fan license and the commercial license. We haven't seen the fan license.
Yeah, there's a variety of worst case scenario, Matt, and the reason why we're speculating about even the worst, that you can't sell anything under OGL 1.1a, is because the implications of the excerpt. The implication of the authorization
1.0, did they go back and update all their products to 1.0 or whatever it is?
So Section 9 of the OGL says that updating the license, Wizards or its designated agent may publish updated versions of this license. Simple, right? You may use any authorized version of this license to copy, modify, and distribute any open game content originally distributed by any license. So
you're talking the original OGL, what you're just reading right there. Okay, okay. And of course, the new one does away with that. Okay, I got you.
Okay.
So, my fear, and I don't know for sure. All right, we don't know what kind of deal. One bookshelf. Now remember, one bookshelf and Roll20 are now one company. So Roll20 is going to be a competitor to the VTT when it finally comes out from 1D&D.
Well, yeah, they want to be able to control how their IP is used, how it's put out, and they want to make money off of every transaction of that. I mean, they're a company, guys. Welcome to dealing with a company. Everybody
going to be an existential threat.
Don't do any evil clause in their business statement, and then they quietly took it out, and now everybody hates Google. Same shit.
Well, what's evil? It's subjective, right? But here's my question, and I won't know until it happens, right? Because I'm one of those numbers of publishers who's like, I'll take my game and I will DOGL it and take the SRD references out of it, and I will make it a standalone game that is obviously going to be a clone, but it's not going to. It should never fall under copyright. And now is Wizards of the Coast going to be putting pressure on drive-thru to say, hey, we don't want any games that are D20 that aren't. Well, how do we not publish them? Well, they're going to remove those categories. I'm going to guarantee you, if they if they can't sell the old product, they're going to remove categories like OSR and other stuff and Pathfinder, and you're gonna have to like find another marketplace for this stuff, and maybe that's itch.io. I don't know.
Well, wait a minute.
You
I
won't
hate to
know
throw a
until
little
it's
wrench in your
planned.
thing there. You said get rid of the term OSR.
On drive through as
But
a
is
category.
OSR D&D only? I mean, I know a lot of people that would say argue
I
against
believe on
that.
drive through OSR is pretty much
Oh, is it?
well,
Do
maybe.
they have a new OSR
Well,
category?
actually, I don't know. Does the
Flyhander is under
OSR?
yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
But OSR, I mean, if I know a lot of people are like OSR means D&D clones,
Right.
but it doesn't. For the vast majority of people on the internet, it does not.
No, and I agree.
Among our group, it does, but among the internet, it does not. There is so much shit. I mean, go look at Ben's channel. Find me a D&D retro clone. I mean, he does review those, but he's got a shit ton of things that have absolutely nothing except for general theme and concept that have to do with D&D.
Well, there are D&D related categories under OSR subcategory. There's an Osric one, and those have been cleaned up from time to time. We don't. I have done this, and I know some of the other guys have done this over the years. But we see those categories get polluted with obviously not Osric content, not swords and wizardry content, and we say, hey, you got to take a look at this. And to their credit, One Bookshelf has acted, and it's been a while since the last one, so we don't know. But there's a lot of
you're like the OSR drive-through gatekeeper, Rob. I didn't realize that. I'm just messing with you.
Well, at one time I did point out that there were things in swords and wizardry that were not related to swords and wizardry.
Yeah, I gotcha.
I know one of the Osric guys did that for Osric, so take it for what you want.
So St. Cuthbert has a question. Can't you still use IP under the OGL if you don't agree to 1.1? You can, but you're going to have to. If you're under the OGL and you literally have you're not relying on anybody other's OGL content, you're fine. But if you're writing for Swords and Wizardry and it's content that can be traced back to the SRD, you're going to probably have to change things. Like people I've been speaking with, everybody's like, all right, we're going to have to break out the thesaurus and change what the stats are called. And it's been done before, right? Mayfair did it. Hit points were hits to kill. Hit dice were whatever, like, health dice. All these things can be changed, and are they superficial? Sure. But that's because you are going to likely need to protect yourself from the big bad wolf. This is what the OGL allowed you to avoid having to do. With Continual Light, it's 32 pages in digest size. And I'm going to rewrite it without actually going back to the original Word document because I'll fuck things up. I'm going to rewrite it by looking at the printed page and rewrite the printed page. Because that way I will change. Because also, here's the other thing, folks. You don't know, you might not realize, but certain parts of certain games are probably copy and paste right from the original SRD. And if you don't reword that into your own words, guess what? You have now violated somebody's copyright, or potentially. So copyright certainly is a way to get around it. You've got to be careful with it. And you just can't say, like I said, I was having a huge discussion with somebody overnight and this morning about copyright on Facebook. And you just can't say, they don't worry about the OSR. If an OSR game is obviously in violation of copyright because relying on the SRD and they still publish new material and Wizards of the Coast doesn't take action, then they're opening themselves up to, you didn't protect your copyrighted material there? Well, then maybe your 5e material is going to become lost under copyright. They're going to have to actively defend it. This is going to be messy if Wizards of the Coast goes through with this. I'm not a lawyer, Don't play one on TV. I have friends that are. Most of them have souls, so they're the exceptions. But yeah.
No way. They're demons.
Yeah.
All of them, including the one that we hang out with.
So I have some perspective on the drive-through RPG situation. So this is about the volume of business being done on drive-through that would be potentially affected by this. As people know, I have Black Marsh. What people may not know, there is not a day that goes by that somebody downloads. There are 2 or 3, sometimes as many as 7 or 8 downloads of the free copy of Black Marsh. This and every sale I can bring up, and it will show me the transaction number that drives through assigns to it. Now, when I tell you this number, it may not be reflect the actual product number of products sold. There's probably a lot of accounting transactions behind the scene. But when you track it from year to year, it's an accurate reflection of the volume of business, because the more business you do, the more transaction, actual sales or accounting you're going to do. So this year, they had 4,778,717 transactions. So even if it's a quarter of those are real sales transactions, that's like 1 million sales. And how many of those are third-party content on drive-through sales compared to D&D? Because the current edition not being sold on drive-through.
That's a good point. You're right. But they don't. You can't get the core books for 5e. Even in DM's Guild, they aren't available.
Right, and how many of that is really like GURPS core book or RuneQuest? I mean, if drive-through loses the right, if publisher loses the right to publish these third-party content, it might just absolute gut one drive-through RPG and then turn it into a business that's no longer viable for one bookshop to continue. It all depends on how much proportion of that 4.7 million number are sales that are not traditionally copyrighted material.
I don't know. I got to agree with Steve a little bit on here. We're all creators. We're going to keep creating shit. I think I said it in our chat the other day. I kind of hope that this maybe brings back blogs. I mean, let's think about it. A decade ago, how many people were releasing and selling products versus how many were putting crap on blogs for free? There was a huge swath of ideas and creations and modules and maps and everything on blogs. And once we all were like, holy shit, I can make, $20 a month on this PDF if I take my blog. I mean, some people actually took posts off of their blogs and turned it into a product and sold it on drive-through. And I mean, I don't know. I'm pretty sure you guys all know this is a hobby, not a business, but
right.
I kind of hope it goes back to being a hobby and not some little pipe dream of being able to be a RPG publisher for a living that a lot of people I think have tried.
I just want people to release stuff in the form they want, the way they want it. So whether it's a blog post or
you can do that on a blog, and you don't have to have OGL and all that crap. I mean,
to me, my primary concern as somebody who just enjoys the richness of the community, if you think about old video games, as we've moved to new formats, so many old video games have been lost. Nobody can play them anymore. Websites like GOG do a good job of bringing some of them back. But I mean, old game, Atari, stuff that's really old. Once the format goes away, you can't play it anymore. It's like something you have to go to a museum to see. We had that problem with old film once we started moving over to digital. Film degrades. The original film from 1920 is not going to be intact anymore. Like, from a cultural perspective, my position is to maximize the retention of all of this content. I said this how many times have we been talking to Tim? And I've said, Tim, I just want to preserve what you've done. You've already written all this stuff. I don't want you to publish it for me to go play. I want you to publish it so it's saved, so somebody can read it, so it can be recovered. If you die tomorrow and it's in a notebook, it's gone. Like I want to preserve as much of this content as possible in whatever format it is, whether it's a PDF on drive-through or an actual book or something like that. But because we're getting to the point where a lot of these people, I mean, how many people do we have to from the 1980s who worked on this original stuff? How many people do we have to write eulogies for every year? I mean,
maybe we need to
we're
create
losing this stuff.
Maybe we need to create the Tenkar library where all of these products that are no longer available, the Tenkar library repository.
Oh boy.
Yep, there you go, Eric. I just nominated you. And all these products that are no longer valid because of the OGL and creators don't want to update them, just have it freely available. I don't know how you do it, but
I have to have friends in Russia who take care of stuff.
Yes. Put it on a server in Ukraine.
Well, that's a good place to put it.
Yeah, because the U.S. government would probably fund the fucking server. Oh, dang it. Did I demonetize you? Sorry.
No, actually.
No? Okay.
No, well, I've been very surprised that the live streams have not been demonetized, usually except for...
I haven't been here.
Yes. So it's just like, hey, wait a second, there's Matt Jackson in the room. No money for them. Which is the coast called? Nope. They're
Rob, you're the legal depth digging into all this. If you had products that were OGL and you were keeping them in a web archive and making it available, would that?
Here's what I would think. I think you'd have to fund a country. Now, this has been there are taverners worldwide, and one who happens to be Australian and a law student mentioned that the contract law in Australia likely wouldn't allow this to happen. It would not allow the OGL to get struck down after 23 years, especially when you could see on their old facts that like, yeah, there's no worry. We'll never, even if we write an OGL that you don't like, you just ignore it and use the one that you do like. They told you that in 2004. So you'd have to find.
Oh, and they kept that website up until last year.
Well, that's when they knew. They were like, oh shit. What about the Wayback Machine? Wayback what machine? What? No. Can we buy that? No, you can't. Mm-hmm. So you would have to find a country that would be more apt to protect your rights. Listen, the civil legal system in the United States, in most circumstances, comes down to who's got more money, so I can outspend you with motions and delays and everything else. So that is a tactic. And if your company is worth 1.2 or 1.3 billion, and maybe you pull up all the OGL publishers in that top tier, maybe they get a valuation of, I'm going to be generous, 100 million between them. Paizo isn't what it was. Goodman, Kobo Press. I mean, and Kobo Press, you can't count the Pokemon license because that's a different aspect. So, how do you fund that? Well, first, you'd have to get those companies to agree that united we stand, divided we fall, right?
It'd be complicated. Yeah, it was just an idea.
No, it's just saying, like, if they stand alone, if every company stands alone in the face of Wizards of the Coast, they are going to get their asses stomped. If they say they're going to stand together, then they're going to have to put a legally binding document that will force them to stand together. Because what's the first thing that happens when somebody comes around asking for money? Hey, you said if I had a problem, you chip in. Well, I'm a little short this week. You're going to make sure that all these companies are in it together. And then this is just my thought process. You need some high rollers, some people with large amounts of disposable income that are willing to take the fight to WotC. And a GoFundMe, people talk about a GoFundMe. That GoFundMe would have to be worth millions of dollars
Yeah.
to make a difference. Now, the other thing is, do you wait for Wizards of the Coast to take that step and hit somebody with a cease and desist, because then they get to choose their target and they're going to try to find that weakest link? Or do you, as a coalition, say, hey, we're not going to wait to get sued. We're going to find a law that we can use to start the legal action ourselves and get WotC off balance? It's all tactics that you got to think and plan. And a week ago, I don't think anybody was thinking these tactics. I think, judging from the way my phone has been ringing, I would suspect if my phone's ringing this much from people in the industry on different levels, I can only imagine what's happening at like Paizo and
Are you
Goodman
making
Games.
friends that you didn't expect? People that have always hated you are now calling
Oh
you
yeah,
up?
no,
Really? Wow.
I have people who have not, as far as I can tell, publicly, like on the main Facebook feed, haven't said like, "Hey, Tenkar is like a Yahtzee douchebag," but people who may have said that in a walled garden, and then I have sources in the walled garden who give me screenshots because
Well, so what do you guys think is going to happen? You think Wizards will back down?
Personally, I think if Wizards was going to back down, they would have backed down sooner.
Right.
Really, Eric? You think they would have? I think they're still within their what they call the OODA loop, action decision loop.
The reason why I'm saying that is because when this leak happened, because, again, this is me spitballing, folks. This is really no inside information, no inside baseball. This leak happened, I believe, because somebody who was under NDA said, "I'm not signing this. As far as I can tell, no other major players are signing this. The public needs to know. We have to get this knowledge out there so we can get feedback. We can get upset publishers, community." Now, WotC has tended recently to react quickly and usually poorly. It's like, oh, the Hardys. Well, they were only slave races because that was in the original source material back in 2E. No, it wasn't. You assholes added that in 2022 because you're assholes. I expect them to react instinctually to try to schmooze it over. I know that they're still contacting major players and telling them, "I don't understand what's wrong. This is no big deal." What really?
Okay. Let's be okay. So social media, you guys complained about what's going on our private area enough time that there's a pattern to all of this, and I would argue that yes, if it's an example of the Assyrians turned out to be a slave race and that's poorly received, that fits the pattern that we have been seeing. So they have a playbook and training to how to deal that. The staff can deal with it quickly, but this one is not. This is not in the playbook.
All right, Rob, I'll give you that one. It's not.
And if you recall, I tried to crash. I hopped on your Friday podcast, and we kind of. I mean, this is just breaking out so quickly that it was Thursday or Friday. I forgot which one. Friday. We were kind of all in the doubt whether this rumor was real, and then it kind of solidified.
It went to shit real fast.
Yeah, and then Saturday it was discussed seriously with you and Rach, and now we're here, and it's only been 3. I submit that we're inside your action decision loop.
All right. Well, here's what I do know, that as last week was wrapping up, I was getting like DM Dave, who I'm in his mailing list. I didn't realize how productive this guy was and how big a Patreon he has and how much he publishes. And this guy just to be able to put out 2 years of content and upload it under the original OGL to get it in, as he said, under the wire, and it will come out like once a week for 2 months, means that he was getting inside information far longer than anybody got this leak. When I was getting my information, my initial information was that publishers were being told this isn't going to affect anything prior to 1D&D. The original OGLs are still in effect. It's not a big deal. And this was going apparently right up to the top.
So I got something it's very minor breaking, but Justin Alexander, everybody know who he is?
Yep.
He just posted on the resource on Defend the OGL. I will mention again that based on the public leaks, we have seen no indication that Hasbro is actually attempting to revoke the license. I mean, there are examples of overreactions in the internet before, but I don't think this is one of them. And people like him saying shit like that does not help the situation.
No, it doesn't, because I know major publishers who
I'll
are.
get a screenshot for you, Eric.
All right, but listen, look at it this way. We already know Troll Lord Games has said they're no longer using the OGL. They're walking away from the OGL. So that would tell me that they're revoking the OGL. And the leak had a paragraph that said it. I had been under the impression initially that if you opted in to 1.1, you were revoked from early ones. You couldn't use the original and the new. It was one or the other. And by opting into the new, you for forever opted out of the prior. And I was getting feedback from publishers that they were going to do, hey, split off a company for 5e, or sorry, 1D&D, and then they keep my regular company for the old OGL. This was everybody was like fine with doing it. It's a pain in the ass, not a big deal. And then that went to shit. Was it late Thursday? I think it was maybe it was Friday. Listen, all I know is that the last couple of days, my phone and PMs have been off the hook, and that is current information or current updates from people that this is their livelihood. This isn't their hobby. Okay, this isn't like I'm making a car payment from this. This is from people who this is how they're making their living. All right, so I'll mention again that based on the public leaks, we've seen no indication that Hasbro is actually attempting to unilaterally revoke the license. Hasbro is attempting to create a legal loophole to deauthorize the OGL 1.0 so that it can no longer be used due to Clause 9 of the license. The effect is obviously similar but distinct. If Hasbro thought they had the legal ability to unilaterally revoke the OGL 1.0a, it seems extremely likely to me that they'd simply do that. Well, revoke it without putting out a new license? I don't get that. That's like, oh, they would just revoke it if they could. They are apparently doing that by putting out the new license. You can have no license in between? Whatever.
I love Sparky in the comments. He's my favorite today. He or she is my favorite.
All right, hold on. Let me catch up.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you're going to see, I know you guys don't hang out on itch, but there is a massive physical game movement on itch, and there has been for the last year and a half. And I would by far say the majority of those have nothing to do with the OGL. All those will still be there. All those creators will still be creating stuff. Is it going to impact some of the more mainstream OSR creators? I think so, but I think all of these guys, you guys, me, everybody that's created stuff that's OSR-ish over the last decade, we're still going to be doing that. We're still going to be creating stuff. Maybe we can't use the term beholder, floating eye monster or whatever. I mean,
but that's not OGL stuff. Anyhow, that's
IP stuff. But I mean, we'll use our own terms so that we don't have to.
Right.
Because I mean, you can create a game exactly like D&D and just use different shit, because you can't, unless the rules have changed, you can't copyright
Right. You can't
Gaming
copyright
can't.
rule, just the presentation.
Yeah.
I mean, I've already heard that from more than one person in the publishing community that there is a movement around to clone 5e and release it under a Creative Commons. You know,
I mean,
That's-
why not? How hard would that be? You just got to change all the damn terms. I
And
mean,
we
all of
write
us sitting around the table would still go strength and dexterity, but we all go, oh
Right.
yeah, we muscle and agility or whatever they change
Right.
it to. I mean,
yeah, no, seriously, that's it's going to be a little awkward. It might be better for the gaming community as a whole for this to happen.
but we might end up with a real open, seriously open gaming community. I mean,
Yes.
we've sort of been pretending we had an open gaming community because Wizards was playing nice.
Right.
And now, they're forcing the issue. And I think they'll do fine. I mean, I hope their movie does fine. I could really care less. I probably won't even watch it until it's available on one of the streaming services for free. But I think I said it in the chat. I think they want a brand. They don't care. I mean, really, in all honesty, what level of profit is made by the gaming books? I don't know. I don't really care enough to look, but I know somebody that's in the industry too. Haha. And they told me that the only division of Hasbro that's made any games this last year was Wizards. Everything else is stagnant. So if that's true, I mean, I don't know if it is, but if it's true, that means this is their only avenue of profit, I guess, or growth. But who knows? I think they could still very easily have a viable D&D community, but they have to somehow mitigate pissing off the social media mob. And right now, that's a tsunami, and they've got a white picket fence trying to stand up to that.
Wow. All right, L. Tenkar, do you think it may have been Sadfish Games, Prudence Holdings, or their legal team that leaked the 1.1, since they were already preparing class action lawsuit for anticipatory breach, or could the lawsuit by them be the reason Wizards of the Coast was forced to stay silent on the leak? I believe that the leak is from a larger publisher. Personally, I think it's somebody who has a lot more has their livelihood and the livelihood of their employees at risk or at stake. So that's just my thing on it. Jim, the petition over 3K now. That is awesome. I put the link up earlier. I'm gonna put it back as because folks, you know what? Your voice doesn't matter unless your voice is there with other voices. As an individual, it's like your vote as a single person. It's a drop in an ocean. But
hold on. You know what we need? I love the little thing we got going here. Chris, Sparky, we need to start some sort of community movement to rename all of the Wizards IP. I like Begazers, the Watsies.
Oh, nice.
Start renaming everything, and then we can make that open gaming content.
I mean, listen, just you turning out. We had like 45 live viewers on a Sunday afternoon on the last weekend of regular season football. All right, that's.
Are there football games going on? Oh.
Yeah.
Oops.
This is the last weekend of regular season football, so this turnout is actually very good, and you all in the chat have been very chatty. So, I appreciate. We appreciate it because listen, this affects all of us. Okay, whether you're a publisher or a consumer or you're a player, a vibrant creative community means more options for you. Doesn't mean that every option is an option that you're going to like. Doesn't mean that you're going to go, ooh, yeah, I want the next Chrism Dragon Slayer from Wenger. Well, maybe you do. But having that option is part of what is great about the gaming community and the gaming marketplace that we have, is that you can find something somewhere that fits your taste. And I personally believe that Wizards of the Coast is trying to make sure that you will adjust your taste to their offerings, and you will buy their stuff or the stuff that is going to fill their coffers, and not elsewhere. So that's just my take on it. Yeah, Grim. People are talking about it. People are talking about, like I said, cloning 5e. People are talking about a core OSR system, and it will be something that will be familiar yet different enough to hopefully. But then again, you could do something perfectly that is covered by copyright. And if WotC wants to hit you with the C&D and bury you under frivolous legal action, welcome to the United States. So, oh wow, I'm really far behind in this. So,
I think I agree with Eric. I think they've said my way or the highway, and I think the choice for the OSR community as a whole should just be the highway.
Yeah,
let's build a new highway. Just walk off. I mean, they don't want us to be here anymore. They're writing they're writing their contract to try to get rid of us.
You'll have Joes that want to play AD&D, even if it has a different name. He'll want to play AD&D.
Well, that's okay.
Actually, I wonder what his brother loves 5e. I wonder what his brother feels like he'd be a little bit of an anarchist. I wonder what Mikey, that's right, Mikey?
Yep, Mikey. Yeah.
I wonder what Mikey's saying.
I think it's kind of like the I'm sure you're familiar with this slogan, Matt. A liberal is just a Republican who hasn't been mugged yet. And that kind of
not
like
bring that in. Okay.
I say, like, the thing is, it's these people who played 5e, they just haven't been mugged yet. They haven't had their dreams stomped on by WotC hard enough, and that's coming. Here he is. WotC's ready to stomp on your dreams, fellas. So you could accept it. I mean, I think this may radicalize guys like Mike. I mean, he said, WotC makes this good thing. Well, it's all well and good until they crap in your face and say, "Oh, you can't do that anymore, and we're going to take this, and we're going to make your life a problem."
I think I made that exact comment in our chat. I'm pretty sure I said that a couple days ago about how everybody was all cool with stepping on certain groups' feelings when it was cool, and now that they're starting to spread their wings and step on other little groups, now everybody gets their fluffles all in a bind.
It's just, I think, a natural human thing. I mean, I'm sure that when 4th edition came out, the people who love 4th edition over 3E were like, "What are all you people doing playing Pathfinder? You should come over and play 4E." But eventually 4E gets stomped on, and then those people are like, "Oh, what's going on?" So I think it's just a natural result of smashing each subsequent generation of people is that they keep creating an ever larger group of people that are against the community, against the company. I mean, it just doesn't seem like a good business model to me. But
I think it's a disconnect between management and creative. The management view as creative as a deck of cards that they can pull. It's a deck they can pull out a card whenever they want, and so there's no continuity of creative visions.
To use the Hollywood term, it's definitely the penguins that are the problem. Yeah, the people wearing the suits.
So how does this impact your RPG there, Greg? How are you viewing its impact on your RPG?
I don't view it as impacting me at all. The only thing I've done is say that there's a part of my book which says that it's under the OGL, but I don't have any of my content is marked as open content. And I don't use any of their content. I just put it in there as a precaution in case they complain to me. I don't use any of their IP. I don't use any of their like the monster names are all changed. I use iTyrant instead of Beholder. I don't use any of the. I don't call anything a ladron.
You have trolls. You have goblins.
Yeah, but those are all Lord of the Rings shit, man. The D&D can't claim that they invented
Or
that.
even that goes back to fairy tales.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not individually, but the list collectively, they could argue that that's a D&D thing. The
If
fact they
it-
have all those,
But how would they
public
claim
domain.
ownership on elves and fairies and trolls? I mean, there's
No. It's
Nordic
not
history and
ownership
German.
it's not the ownership on elves. It's the ownership on the list, the list of monster manual. Go to the table of contents of the monster manual. That's what they
Sure.
claim
Well, there's-
ownership.
Yeah,
There's
but
a
then
long
Greg has
line
other
of
names
people
and
with
other
way
things
more
in it.
money than Greg to sue before you get to Greg. I mean, half of the video games in production could be sued under that. Yeah, I mean, they've got tons of people that aren't D&D that are using those designations. It's not me. I intentionally didn't use the names of their monsters because I didn't want to deal with any of their shit.
There you go. Well, I there we go. Sorry, let's
I love all the monsters people are coming up with in chat.
yeah. Listen, Sparky. The idea is somebody is going to get hit with the C&D, they're going to get hit with legal action, and it's going to be one for all. Because if it's not one for all, they're all going down.
I
As
kind of hope
Benjamin
Wizards
Franklin
does.
said, unless we hang together, we'll surely hang
I
separately.
kind of hope Wizards does go after somebody that's fairly big, somebody that's fairly popular, because that will completely destroy any trust that the community has in them ever again, and they won't recover from.
I submit we're at that point now.
Well, we might be, but I mean, if they actually go after somebody, like I don't know, I don't follow like you guys do, but I don't know, maybe like Troll God or Troll
There's
Lord.
a psychology term for some. It's an aspect of your personality of not wanting to be told what to do. It has some weird arcane psychology term for it, but they've done tests and like people in like a libertarian party have the highest rating when they do. So yeah, that's me all the way. Like if you tell me not to do something, that makes me more likely to do it. If you tell me I can't have something, that makes me more likely to buy it.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as they start threatening a product, the first thing I do is I go and I buy a copy, so I have a copy even after they've taken down whatever it is.
Well, and if Wizards goes after somebody small, you're going to also get a bit of that supporting the underdog, David versus Goliath kind of thing.
That's what I'm saying. I think in the United States especially, there's a huge percentage of the population that came here specifically because fuck you. You know, I mean, there's a huge number of people who've immigrated to the United States because of fuck you. And you can totally see the difference if you leave the country. But I mean, there's so much of that. I think if they go after a frog god, if they go after a publisher that has a lot of goodwill, I think
games.
I think that the community would just flood whatever the counter reaction comes up with. Somebody says, "Let's do this." It'll be a long line of people to say "F you" to WotC, and there's going to be nobody defending them.
Let's start having flash mob. No, I can't do that. Somebody will come after me legally. Never mind.
Bad.
Yeah. I'm secretly an anarchist.
Well, we could,
despite my decades of army service.
Can you imagine if you had a real organized campaign to go on to like IMBD and have everybody leave a 0-star review for the D&D movie, like thousands and thousands of people? It would totally swamp their rating.
Oh, then they just pull the Disney card out and be like, "Oh, it's just a bunch of old white."
Yeah, unfortunately, Greg, because of what happened to earlier films, both fairly or unfairly, depending on your point of view, that is in the playbook now, and as long as the response, if that happens.
I still maintain that Season of the Witch is the best D&D movie ever made. If you haven't watched it, you gotta watch it.
I haven't watched it in a couple of years.
They take a long journey to get to a place where there's a corrupt evil boss, and they kill it. I mean, like it's
is that with Nick Cage?
Yeah, Nick Cage is in it. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of weird supernatural shit. Like it's good. To me, it's the most like a D&D adventure of any movie I've ever watched.
I will be interested in the movie just to see how D&D table-ish it really is. Is there like, because shit happens at the table that we're all like would be silly in a movie. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how they make it for gamers or they make it for the masses. I think they'll make it for the masses, so it won't be as D&D as we would like. But I don't know. Hawk the Slayer, God, that movie is like the virus that keeps coming back.
Hawk the Slayer. If you haven't watched
Wow.
it, Matt,
I never saw it until I was like in my late 40s, like probably 5 years ago, and the damn thing keeps coming up.
Jack Palance choose
It's
everything.
horrible. All you people that love it are just living in nostalgia or something. It's horrible.
and those
it's
those
horrible.
swirling hoops.
It's
It's
horrible.
horrible in a good way. Good
Yeah.
way. You gotta.
No,
It's a movie that brings a smile to your face.
no, that's a movie that makes me change the channel really quick.
Ignore the plot holes. There are many. Just go with the.
I guess you know what? It probably is the most D&D-ish movie ever because it is so cheesy,
Yeah.
so ludicrous.
I'm double specialized in my bow.
It's so ridiculous.
I've got a quiver of endless arrows and I'm double specialized.
Yeah.
I could shoot it to melee. Come on.
Yeah.
You DM. That's all.
I do think I would like to pitch this. My wife is a big, high level person in product design, and one of the things is I talked to her about D&D stuff, and she said she can't believe how badly they've mismanaged their brand. If another company could come along, even at the Paizo size, and just do a much better job, they could really pick up an enormous amount of market share.
What about Free League?
Well, I'll use Free League as an example, Rob. They could be a potential for this if they're listening. Imagine if they set up online where you could just pay some kind of fee and you could run it. You could be in a VTT run by one of their people the way they want it to be run, and it would be broadcast on YouTube. So you could every day constantly have YouTube videos going out of people actually playing the damn game. And it wouldn't cost them. What's that guy from Israel, Yuri Kurlianchik, who he plays D&D at like a kibbutz with the kids that aren't doing anything at that moment. And so, like, every day, his whole day is just playing D&D. Like, if they could just film this dude and put it on the web, they do such a horrible job at just communicating what D&D even is. The marketplace is
they don't know what it is.
Yeah,
it's
the marketplace is totally open for somebody to come along and do it better. And that's why there even is an OSR, I think. I mean, it's just there's so many ways to do it better that even an individual person with no money can go, I could do it better than this.
Well, I think there's already lots of people doing it way better. I mean, like, go on to, again, Itch. Go on to Itch and look at some of the products. I just bought one called Notorious. I'm a solo guy. But it's a play on being a bounty hunter in a Star Wars-like universe. Production value is absolutely fantastic. Like, the art is amazing. And the book is laid out perfectly, better than half the shit I've seen come out of Wizards lately. But I think they just had a Kickstarter to help fund the print run of it. But there are dozens and dozens of people that are producing better things.
Yeah,
over on
nice
it.
Nostalgic art. Looking at the Kickstarter,
yeah, it's really cool. I just picked it up because I actually have to go pick it up at Office Depot because I wanted a hard copy of it and I missed the Kickstarter. But I think you're right. And I mean, there are lots of people that play games online, D&D or otherwise. If you actually had a concerted effort and combined campaign, I think you're right. I think you could really get something going that could really scare Wizards pretty bad.
Yeah. I mean, I ran
stuff is amazing. I'd love to see some really good. I've watched a couple, like, I like Vasson. I've watched a couple of the Vasson videos, not done by them, but by other people.
Yeah, I know this is getting kind of towards the edge of OSR's temperament, but like You
We
could
have
do
one?
this. You could do this with vampire and just make a killing. I mean, oh my! Like the money is just laying there. Like if you could just put together some good vampire stuff.
Oh
Oh
yeah.
my god! Oh
The
my
kids
god!
today
You could
would
make
eat up
so
goth
much money.
vampires. Oh yeah.
Oh, the
They'd love it.
Oh, the community is out there. Like they could just bring it in, and they just leaving the money on the
Well, what
damn
happened to
table.
White Wolf that they can't take advantage of this?
It's all a vision problem. It's all a
Wow.
vision problem. That's like the fact that there's so much emphasis on doing things the way that they've always done it. That's what the difference between corporations and entrepreneurs. You know, I mean, the entrepreneur is out there looking for the newest, coolest way to do it, and the corporation is we figured out how to do it. How can we force people to do it this way? And that's exactly what Watsy's problem is. They don't see. Do you remember when they came out, Eric, when on Google Plus, they had a whole thing about how they were going to do D&D next and all that shit. And I wrote this very long post about how, they're just leaving all these opportunities on the table. I'm like, I'm connected to 9,000 people on Google Plus. We talk about role playing games all day, every day, and I don't even know who the rep is for WotC.
Wow.
Like at
Yeah.
that time, I'm like, how is this possible? How are you so shitty at marketing that I don't even know who you are? That I'm not getting 2 or 3 texts or emails or tweets or whatever a day on what you're doing for D&D. Like they just suck
really,
at it. They suck
yeah,
at
they
it.
do. I can tell you, my daughter started a candle making business up in Washington D.C. If you're interested, and I kind of laughed at them because they are so focused on their social media presence, especially on Instagram. But they have, in 3 months, they've now sold over $30,000 making candles in their kitchen as a side business because they've been able to jump onto the social media advertising aspect, and then they post videos of them making the candles or selling the candles or talking about the candles. And it's ludicrous that a bunch of, I mean, they're kids in their 20s, but kids can capitalize on that and give it a go. And I'm shocked at how expensive these candles are and that people buy them, but whatever.
Right.
My wife,
And
Like,
they
Matt, my wife is majorly into candles,
yeah,
and
I'll send you the link.
and a lot of the stuff is no, she doesn't make them; she buys them. Okay.
No, that's
But-
what I'll send you the link. You can buy, you can buy something.
Oh yeah, send me the link, please. She's always on the lookout for the new, and but that's how she knows about half of the
Yeah,
candle
I
dealers
just don't
is through
understand
social
why.
media.
Greg's right. I don't understand. I mean, Wizard specifically has just done an absolutely horrible, horrible job. I mean, going back 2 decades, they have just done a horrible job managing the IP. I mean, maybe this will destroy Wizards and then somebody cool can come along. Maybe, I don't know, Matt Finch will.
well, I think it's
Wow.
going to be small time people, because like there's this guy, back 10 years ago, he was talking about this, Gary Vaynerchuk, and he predicted that in the future it would be the people who are the most passionate, the people who are the most intensely focused on whatever it is. Those are the people that are going to take over the space, not the big corporations that are already there. And he talks about, this was back 10 years ago was the first time you could have like a blog that actually paid for your life. You could do a blog. He had examples of like a guy who just walked around New York and he ate all the street food and then wrote reviews of it. So people would go to his blog and look for, how is the falafel at this local street vendor, and then they would go down there and get it. And the dude was making enough money to support his life. All he did was eat street food. That was his whole job. I always thought that was an awesome idea.
Did he live past 40?
Yeah, I don't know, but like that's the kind of thing. Like we're in a totally different world. The reason why those girls are making money off the candles, Matt, is because they are passionate about candles. in a way that, Bed Bath and Beyond is not.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and they'll get on YouTube and they'll say, "Oh, I love this smell because it has this and it has that," and they did so. There's no review out there for Bed Bath and Beyond candle that's as passionate as that. Like that's the thing. It's the passion, the likability of these people. Those are the people who are going to carry the day. Not, "Hello, I work for Wizards of the Coast and my name is Bob."
Well,
nobody gives a shit about that.
It's corporatization of the hobby. I mean, somebody said it earlier where they were talking about Harley. It might have been Sparky was talking about Harley Davidson. I mean, I would love to, and this may be out there, see some sort of statistic that shows what Harley Davidson makes selling motorcycles and what they make selling all of the accessories and clothing and crap. Because you see people all the time wearing Harley Davidson jackets, t-shirts, hats.
Yeah, that's like Star Wars versus merchandising for Star Wars.
Oh yeah. It's made more money off of merchandising over the 50 years almost.
Just so you know, Matt, my wife just bought one of her candles to try out.
Shit, really? Awesome. Cool. Look at that, doing marketing for them.
Good job.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I really think this. I go back to, this is a hobby. It's not a business. It could be a business, but I think you're right, Greg. I think the passion of, and I mean, think about it. How many collective years have just us four spent, some would say wasted, spent on playing, creating our hobby?
More than a century. Easy.
Yeah, definitely.
Unbelievable. I mean,
been chugging along since 1978.
In a way, I've said before, I feel bad for them because they're trying to make something that people are making for free.
Yeah.
But if you're going to try to make something that people are making for free, you have to really kick ass. If you want to stand out in the marketplace, you have to be producing something that's head and shoulders above what everything else. And if you looked at every module, let's say, that was produced in 2022, I bet that every single innovation in layout, design, writing, everything was outside of a major corporation, right? It was some dude who said, "What if I make the block look like this? What if I put them in this order? What if I do it like this?" Those are the people who are innovating.
And here's the other thing too. No matter how inclusive you say you are, you only have so many staff points. You have only so much of a budget to hire people to do projects. So if you want to truly expand inclusivity, regardless of what your circumstances are, whether you are poor, of a minority, or whatever, open gaming's your ticket. And the situation we had was the ticket for these people to bootstrap them up so they can either A, get the opportunities they want, or B, actually work for Wizards themselves. How many people at Wizards today used to work at third-party people?
Yeah. Well, there is no creative endeavor in media that is more open to new entrants than role-playing games.
Oh yeah.
The amount of money that you need to start up as a movie producer, as a TV producer, as a any other kind of media production, you can go out with RPGs and write it in a Word document and buy stock art from the same website that sells your product. It's the most flat production curve possible. The only thing you need is yourself. And whenever anybody complains about any kind of stuff like this, I always go back to, anyone can write RPGs tomorrow if they want to write RPGs tomorrow.
If I could wax a little futuristic here, it's just that RPG is the first where this is going to happen. But with a combination, now AI is not going to do the thinking for us. We'll still have to do it, to be clear. But the tools will allow an individual. I predict within decades, the tools will be there for an individual to produce a movie as every bit as spectacular and meaningful as Avatar or any of the big blockbusters we will see. So we're just the vanguard here, and for a variety of reasons, we're the vanguard here. But it's going to inflict everywhere over the latter half of this century.
I'm going to go totally off topic. Darkwire, believe it or not, I am an Amazon influencer. You'd never know because I don't do any influence.
What is an Amazon influencer?
Yeah.
Well, you show products, and you get like if people go to your links, you get like I don't know anywhere from 4 to 6%.
Oh, but that's an influencer?
Yeah,
Just
they
you
do
post links?
videos.
Well, hell, I'm an influencer then too. What do you
Yeah.
mean?
So, but I listen. I really am like the low impact
Wait.
influencer.
I've got a question. I've been on Amazon's site and they have these like people that's always muted, like in a video, like showing shit, like QVC. Has anybody ever watched that? I've never watched a single one of those
It's
shows.
all. It's
I
all
may have watched one for a technical product, but
Right.
that was about it.
Rob.
okay. Well,
Of course, Rob.
usually it's about women's clothing or shoes or makeup or. And I'm like, no, thank you.
Hey, Matt, it was a 3D printer, so
Yeah, okay. So I would just go to YouTube. I wouldn't even think about going to Amazon. I'd just go to YouTube and find one of the 6 billion.
no, I just
videos
want to
that
know
were-
about this specific model, and I
Yeah.
watched about 5 minutes, and he
Oh,
answered a question I
Go
wanted.
to YouTube and type in your model number. I guarantee you there is a video of
I
somebody.
know, and I did that too.
Yeah.
It was just convenient. We're sitting right there.
Athos, as far as I know, Matt Finch has not released a statement. So, you know, this is totally new waters. Okay, and they are rough waters. We don't know where the bottom is, and we're not quite sure where the shore is, and we're not even quite sure in the end what Wizards of the Coast is going to present. I suspect what we've seen is damn close to what we're going to get, but as Rob has pointed out, they haven't said anything, and they are late in releasing. Okay, they're late in us getting a proper view of this, opposed to the link.
Oh, and by the way, you are right, Eric. If they haven't released something by Friday, then I would say your original statement about where Wizard is at with this was right. But
yeah, well, the 13th. What a great day, right? Friday the 13th is supposed to be the day where those under the NDA. Those
seriously, the 13th, Friday the 13th of all days. They don't have people who think about this shit.
Yo, are you good next Friday? Yeah, sure, I think so. Yeah. Hey, it's the 13th. Huh? Yeah, no. They don't listen.
I'm having surgery on the 13th, and everybody is like, of all days, that day, seriously, Friday the 13th.
You gotta be kidding. Matt, you're getting surgery on the 13th.
Hey, dodge death twice, bring it on, baby.
Come on. Yay. What's another 13th? Listen, are you gonna kick a black cat, walk under a ladder, and break a mirror at the same time?
Yeah, that'd be great.
You know, I'm gonna take it all at once. Give me it all to me so I can come out the other side stronger.
Oh wow, that's interesting. Did you see the comment from Don in the chat about the new VTT from them that they're going to have an AIGM? That's pretty interesting because then you could have live games running constantly.
Oh, this is going to so sync the VTT. I mean, okay, let me rephrase that. It's going to turn the VTT into a computer RPG, a different kind of computer RPG. But it's going to totally drive people away from. It's going to make Wizards into a computer game company, and they're going to lose the entire tabletop market to begin with.
Yeah, but isn't that where the money is? I mean, if you can sell, I want a sword +1. Well, that's $5. A sword +2 is 10. I think I'll buy some of them.
I mean, you can earn it, but it'll take you 17 hours of gameplay to get that +1.
Yeah, Matt. But it's like Eurogames. See, Eurogames revitalized board games, and now they have their own market. But Eurogames, computer games still chug along, and they're much broader business. And but tabletop, Wizards made their current money off of at least the current money in the last 3 years. Much of it off of D&D as a tabletop role-playing game. Now they're just throwing it away, and
Well, yeah, but I
reinvented.
don't think they're throwing it away. I think they're trying to convert it. I stick with they're trying to become a brand. They want what Marvel did, what Disney has done with Star Wars. They want it to be a brand because they want it on T-shirts, they want it on board games, they want it. Sure, if it's on tabletop, that's great. But really, what percentage of the world market spends money on tabletop versus spends money on Drax
All right,
T-shirts?
here. Let's take this a step further. In the years since the Marvel Cinematic Universe has come into existence, printed Marvel comics have dried up, right? I mean,
Right.
the market for you going in and buying the latest X-Men or Avengers, they're printing maybe 1/10 of what they were printing 20 years ago. So, is Marvel still a comic book company? Mm. Are they a producer or licensor of movies and TV shows and tchotchkes? Yes. Is that the future of D&D? You
Well, think
decide.
about it. A
Well,
lot of those
maybe
things aren't.
D&D as a brand, but
A
you know,
lot of those things aren't even
They don't
created by
care about
Marvel. They're licensed. That means
Rob,
it's free money.
right, Rob, they don't care. Now, this is going to be hard for you because we didn't grow up like this about our gaming.
boy, you're taking a lot of guesses about my behavior here.
No, Wizards of the Coast doesn't care about you. Okay, they don't give a flying fuck about gamers unless they mean money. And honestly, if they destroy the tabletop gaming community and D&D becomes an IP of movies and TV shows and books again, and then they don't care about us.
All right,
We give it bad. We give it a bad image because we do with it what we will. They can't control it.
so I'm a big fan of What If. I frequent and even created a few alternate history
I used to
stories.
love. It was the only Marvel comic book I used to buy.
There you go. So you're familiar with the genre.
Uh-huh.
So if that's the case, then what I predict is that D&D as a brand run by Wizard is going to go off and be exactly what you guys describe it to be. But
Mhm.
tabletop role playing, as we will know it, will
Mhm.
continue on, except
It'll
the
be small.
D&D branded system. We don't know how small it's going to
We
be
know
or how.
because D&D has always been the engine that has driven it, and once D&D withdraws from it, it's going to shrink. It's not going to go away. Don't get me wrong, but it's going to shrink because they've always been the engine. But we are a liability now for their marketing, and I just say we. That's just the OSR. Any D&D player from prior to 2020, where orcs are no longer like evil, they can like pick pansies and shit. You now are a detriment to their profitability in other areas.
I get that, but the thing is, what I'm talking about is the future of tabletop role playing. Yes, it will shrink in the internet because this is happening all rather suddenly. So we have a chunk out of it. But to understand that D&D grew to the point where we are because of the appeal of tabletop role playing, not D&D as a brand. Yes, D&D is the dominant system, but it's dominant because it's tabletop role playing. So when we take it away, we will shrink and then we'll grow again. And it would just be like the whole deal that happened with board games and war games. They were absolutely crippled by the rise of computer games in the 90s. And then they found a way forward. Euro games, the Hex Encounter war games have their own deal going on now. They found a financial model that works for them. And now that's thriving. Uh, but they're both bigger than they were at the height in the 80s.
Well, yeah, there's more people. I think you're right. I think tabletop will always exist. I mean, especially with small communities like Itch and some of those that are going to keep the creative element. Because, I mean, part of the excitement of tabletop role playing is what's that new thing that's coming, or that this person has this new idea. And we all kind of grasp to it and want to read it. Because, I mean, let's face it, even I fall into this. I know you guys all do. We all have more shit gaming books than we'll ever use in 3 lifetimes. We like to read and collect and see these other ideas that come out. That will always be. But the thing is, it won't be D&D. It may be a clone of D&D with
Right.
the serial number scratched off. But I mean, I've said for a long time, D&D isn't my game anymore. I ran one 5e campaign. I realized hated it. D&D is not my game anymore. It's
That's
on to the
understand.
next generation.
See, I'm fine. Since I've gotten into publishing, and I kind of knew it before because I ran some various organized gaming, and I won't say the L word for this podcast.
Oh my God.
No, but I'm aware how people's tastes vary, often radically, even when we didn't have all this open gaming stuff. And to me, it's not a problem. The fact that the D&D is no longer a picture, I'm going to feel a pang of nostalgia, but I know we're going to go forward, and I know that the qualities that allowed D&D to remain dominant will be captured by some other system that won't be exactly like D&D because of copyright, but it will be close enough and good enough, and it will become the new standard. Or maybe not. Maybe it's going to be more like an oligarchy of 3 or 4 systems that rule the roost, which I think would be better. But
We like Eric said, we are the poster child for the worst element of D&D. We're a bunch of 4 old white males sitting around. Maybe not Greg. I don't know what his age is. I know he's younger than us. He's the baby. But we are the antithesis of what Wizards wants going forward.
yeah, that's
They don't want
bullshit.
us.
Because if anything, because we
Oh,
support
God.
open
Look at their
gaming.
marketing. Are you into running the Starbucks cafe in Waterdeep?
I have never run the Starbucks cafe in Waterdeep, but I've become pretty damn
Wait.
close in some of my campaigns.
Does that sound fun?
I don't know. The guys got a great enjoyment building an inn in the last GURPS campaign I ran. So I am not going to just agree with you. Oh, that sounds like bullshit, because that turned out to be a fun campaign. Now, granted, if I ran a Starbucks in my campaign, suddenly they might be, it might be a Starbucks near the plain of Cairns, and it's haunted by undead and stuff. And in order to keep their Starbucks running, they're going to have to go and clear out the plain of their undead minutes. So, which is how the GURPS campaign went. So, it might be something that you'll be able to tolerate, Matt. But no,
I
not.
think they're trying to change their image so that they can grow a brand that is like Marvel and Disney. I think that's the bottom line to this. I think Eric's right. I think they're going to use this year to scorch earth the rest of us, to scare us out of the hemisphere of D&D and get us into other shit, because we are such a niche of a niche of a niche that our dollar input into their coffer is so minuscule. They want to clear out all of us having any input. We'll stop saying D&D. We'll say, what is somebody saying? Eldrin is the folk OSR RPG. We'll come up with a new name or something like that. And they're trying to distance themselves from it. And I think they're going to I think they're hoping this movie starts their brand, but I think they really need to. Most brands are built around not just there is a Marvel brand, but the Marvel brand is the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's all connected with characters that we can latch onto. And unless they create something like that, like I don't know if they could do it with Forgotten Realms or Greyhawk or Eberron or Dragonlance, but I think they need to create a D&D cinematic universe that'll have characters, because that's what you latch onto. Everybody has their favorite Avenger.
Are you suggesting
that
that they should stop writing the coattails of Gary Gygax and just keep cloning shit over and over again and actually come up with their own content, Matt?
No,
no,
that'll never happen.
Those are some radical ideas, man. Those are some crazy ideas.
I call what you described, Matt, as a soap opera effect. People are the most interesting thing that the thing that people are interested in is other people.
Well, yeah, we're human.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you can engage the soap opera effect,
people,
whether it's for a campaign or a cinema or for TV or a book, you got them.
Yeah, I think that's what Hasbro really needs to do. They need to create a D&D cinematic universe, and I don't know. They need to books, T-shirts, movies, TV shows that are all connected or something. But I don't know if they have that within their ability.
See,
No,
they're all
aside-
leeches though. They're even at Marvel, they're not making anything new. They're just leeching off the past. They can't come up with a new design, a new character. Every new character they've come up with has sucked ass. You know, they're still remaking Superman from
Well-
the 30s and 40s. I mean, like, they can't come up with a new idea to save their fucking life.
All right.
They
Do you have the
suck.
same criticism, Greg, of Robin Hood and King Arthur?
You see me making Robin Hood related IP? Shit, man.
So if somebody was to focus on Robin Hood or King Arthur, you would have the same criticism.
If somebody came along, like Pendragon is a great example of actually innovating and how you interact with the material. Hey, I'm all for that. That's awesome.
Well, I would submit the Marvel Cinematic Universe is exactly in the spirit of Pendragon, and this time it actually succeeded. Maybe their latest effort are falling short, but during that first run up to the Infinity War stuff, I thought it was a pretty solid effort.
Holy crap! Have we been in this for 2 hours?
We have, and you know
Jesus,
what?
we all need to get a life.
Right, we do. And I'm pretty sure in like the next 10, 15 minutes, I'm gonna have my parental units going into the attic to put away Christmas shit. So it's gonna be like, I don't need that on the
You need to work on that.
Yeah, folks. Thank you for joining us. It's been great. We hope you've been informed. As always, as I hear stuff, if you're on Facebook, I have shared what little I can, but I do put it into these videos. Next video won't be until tomorrow because I need a life. Thanks to IP Thief, Greg, Rob, Matt. It's been really fun. If I hadn't been rushing over here, I probably would have remembered to invite Glenn in, but of course I didn't, so I screwed that up. But in any case, folks, thank you. This was an informative and fun bonus live stream. Don't get spoiled. Most of these people have lives, you just don't know about it. So don't expect many more Sunday live streams, unless it's really important. All right, folks. Be safe, be well. God bless. Roll those dice. Roll them well.
Make your own stuff.
Yep.
Death
Yeah.
to Watsy.
Yeah. Tell Watsy.
Viva la revolution.
There you go. We
These
need,
guys.
you know, F the OGL. We need to get those shirts made up. So
Right.
somebody, or would that be under the OGL? Would that be a violation of the OGL to have a fuck the OGL shirt? I don't know.
I think that could be
OGL is not a trademark, so
Empire.
we're good.
All right, we can work on that. Later, folks.